In our last recording, we spoke about the theory of exceptions. In this recording, we're going to watch what happens during normal expected behavior and also when we are missing something, when we do have an exception occur because of network data. I'm going to go ahead and type in Redbud, the trusty Redbud that, again, in a cold winter, I am looking forward to seeing this thing come into bloom. I'm going to hit search, and this is going to reach out to over the network and get data for us. As a matter of fact, it looks like we have a breakpoint here. So I think I set this breakpoint earlier if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so doing background, this is our background thread. And we're going to go into fetch plants. I'm going to step into. Okay. In fetch plants, we're going to send out a request URI, which is just a URI to plantplaces.com in our JSON data. And now I'm going to go into this network DAO request. I'm choosing F5 to step into. And I made a couple changes. Hopefully it's able to sync up my lines here. Yes, it is. Okay. Now we're going to see it's going to walk over the network and it's going to get data back with any luck. And I'm going to go ahead and press play at this point. And what we'll see is that the network data, as soon as I go ahead and play through this, the network data will populate our UI. Okay, and on post execute, we don't need that breakpoint anymore. Just do a little housekeeping here. And sure enough, we see we have network data. We have data that's come from plantplaces.com live in our emulator. Let's try this one more time, but I'm going to do a little trick. Okay, if you see here, I'm currently, well, let's see, I don't know if this is capturing. You see I'm currently connected to my home network. I'm going to choose disconnect. Hate to do that, but I'm going to choose disconnect. And with any luck, we'll refresh this. Just have to make sure it's not going to reconnect automatically. Okay, so I've disconnected. Okay, no longer connected to the network. Now let's try that again. I'm going to hit search. Let me recenter here. I'm going to choose search. And we're going to walk very carefully through the debugger and watch what happens when I do not have network access. This is going to be fairly common on a mobile phone because we have to think of the times and the places where we use our mobile phone. Okay, I'm going from the UI. I'm now stepping into the online plant DAO. I'm gathering a URI, accessing my network DAO. And now's the important part. I'm going to go to the network DAO and tell it to do a request. Now watch carefully what happens to the green line, because as soon as an exception is thrown, it's going to skip all of the logic that follows until either it gets a catch block, or if there is no catch block, it's just going to throw back to the calling method. So watch where we are. We're right now in network DAO in the request method. The first few lines don't require network access, but this line execute does require that we're on the network. And because I've now turned my computer off the network, it's not going to be able to respond. And what's interesting is that this line 42 will never get hit. Now, just to make sure I'm not lying, I'm going to set a breakpoint right on line 39 of online plant DAO. That would be... Actually, you know what? That's right. This is the method we just stepped into. Line 39 would be the next to be called if the network call happened appropriately. On the other hand, if something went wrong, it's going to come down to this catch block right here. So I'm going to set a breakpoint on both, and let's watch very carefully what happens when I choose F6. Notice it will not go to line 42. It's going to skip everything until it gets to that catch block. So let's go ahead and do F6. Is line 42 going to light up? It's currently trying, and it will probably time out in just a moment. If it takes a long time, I might hit pause and force it to time out so you don't have to wait for it. But what it's trying to do now is trying to connect over the network, and I know this is off screen, but I can look at my wireless. My wireless says connection's not available. As a matter of fact, 1 second. Okay. If you see I mouse over here, not connected, connections are available, and now we'll go back. Okay, this will take probably a moment to time out. I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording, but trust me, there's no funny business going on. I'll unpause it once it comes back, which will probably be right after I hit pause. Now, it did take a few moments. I'm going to go ahead and reconnect to my network now. It did take a few moments, but look at the breakpoint that caught. And again, trust me on this, the last line to execute was the line where it was doing the network connection. If you don't believe me, which I'm sure you do, because I'm a trustworthy guy, I'm going to hold down Alt and hit left arrow, which in Eclipse will show me the last line where I was. If I choose Alt and left arrow, we're going to see I was right here on this execute method, and now it has taken me into the exception. Now here's the trick. Watch what's going to happen here. It says catch, and it does what's pretty much a useless print stack trace, and then it returns all plants. I'm going to go ahead and hit play. What will happen in this case is we're giving the user bad information. We're giving the user nothing at all. Okay, you see that we come to the plant places screen and there's just no information whatsoever. So a better way to handle this might be if we go over to, let me Control M. This one's a little bit tricky because we are running in a different thread, but a better way to handle this might be this. Online plant DAO is invoked by our plant results activity. What we probably would want to do here is in the on post execute, we want to check this all plants first. If it's null or if it's empty, we want to show a message to the user indicating that, sorry, I was unable to get some results. It's not so bad here because we did have that catch block and we do always return an empty array if something went wrong. But an exception that goes unhandled will result in your app crashing, which is obviously something you don't want. That's going to decrease the quality. And we know that quality is one of those things we do not want to sacrifice on in a mobile app. We can cut back on functionality, we can cut back on time, we don't want to cut back on quality. My recommendation is use a Scrum approach, release little bits of functionality after each sprint, but make sure the quality is there. So release functionality as time increases, but never sacrifice on quality. So an uncut exception, if it were to happen somewhere else where we didn't have this catch block, it would result in our application crashing. What I can do here now is I can say if, because I'm in a UI layer, right? I'm in plant results activity. I can say if all plants equal null. That means was it not populated? Or all plants dot size equal 0. Now let's put an informative error message. Let's show an informative error message to the user. Okay, we'll come back to that in just a second. Else, we will go ahead and populate. We will go ahead and populate the list. I'm going to Control A, Control I, which will fix my indents, which are now off because I've done this if test. So let's look a little more closely at this if test. If all plants equals null, when will that happen? That will happen if we declare a variable called all plants, but we never put anything in it. All plants will be null if we declare a variable, but we never assign anything to it. Now we have the OR operator. That means if either one of these tests evaluates to true, then the entire if test we're going to consider true. An OR operator means either one of these can be true. The opposite would be the double ampersand. That's shift and the 7 key on your keyboard. But the OR operator is what we want here. Either if we have nothing, in other words, the variable is never assigned, or we have a list of 0. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, because I am in, and let's verify, I am in a class that extends an activity, so this is a UI class. What I'm going to do now is show a toast. Toast.makeText. This, actually it's going to be plant results activity dot this. Okay. Text, remember we don't want to say too much. We might be dealing with someone who's intentionally trying to break our software. We don't want to reveal any underlying details to them. So we will just say, we were unable to connect to the network, or I went too far there. We're unable to connect to the network. Oh, I see. It won't let me do a comma. Interesting. Let me see if I can put that in quotes. No, it doesn't want to do that. Okay. 1 second. We'll fix it just a minute here. It was using the automatic template in Eclipse. It just misunderstood what I meant by a comma. We were unable to connect to the network, or your search returned 0 results. And then we need to say how long we want it to show, toast.length long, and then we want to hit show to show this message. Okay, so we're looking pretty good. The only thing is we've done a no-no here. We've done a no-no. We have placed some hard-coded text into our app. And these are the easiest to miss because you don't see them all the time. It will only happen in an exceptional condition. So you might think, oh, I'll just hard-code this. I'll move it to strings XML later. But these are the easiest ones to miss. Let's go ahead and do it now. We want to move this to strings XML. Strings XML, if we go back to Java View, strings.xml is, remember, that's where we put all of our strings. So res, values, strings XML, and this allows us to internationalize, because if we wanted to make a Spanish version, we'd use values-es and have a strings XML there, and then we would have Spanish translation for each of these items here. We want to take that text that we just wrote and we want to move it into strings XML. Sounds like a big task. It's honestly not that bad. First, let's go back to where we were. Remember that shortcut? We're in strings XML now. How do we go back to our last screen? Remember that shortcut I just said a while ago? Alt left arrow takes us back to our previous screen. Now I'm in my previous screen. Control M is going to maximize the screen, put it in high def. Now I want to move this string to strings XML, and it's much easier than it sounds. I simply hold Control and press 1. Now I choose extract string with a little Android logo here. Okay, it's going to bring something up, and I'm going to say MSG null or no results. That's going to be the name of the string. Okay, this is the string text it's going to save, and then I'm going to choose OK. Okay, 1 second. Occasionally with this recording software, I can't see where the square is that it's recording, and I have to do that little hopscotch there I just did. But in any case, take a look now. It says r.string.msg null or no results. It says that instead of the hard-coded text I had before. I'm going to wrap this with a method called getString, and what that will do is that will reach into that's going to reach into that strings XML and get the error message out and put it here. Okay, save. Okay, disconnect. Let's go to strings XML and take a look. Remember that string message we had before? Here it is. It's now in strings.xml, where all of our text should go that the user is going to read, so we can internationalize it. The way we did that is we simply put our cursor on the text that we want to move to strings XML, Control 1, extract string with the Android logo, and then we wrap what it replaces with the method called getString. So there we go. And with this, I'm going to save. Now, I want to test this out. I have a little bit of a dilemma at this exact moment, and that is the last video that I was recording is right now uploading to YouTube, and I don't want to disconnect from my network because that will break that. So what I'm going to do is pause this recording for a moment. When that video finishes, I'm going to disconnect from the network again. We're going to run this both with the network on and with the network off, and we're going to look at the differences and see if we've made life easier for the user. Again, in real life, what we would do in this case, in real life, what we might do instead of just throwing back an exception and saying, sorry, we don't have any results, what we would do if we got a network error, we would switch over and try to use a local data source. The only trick is we don't know what that local data source is yet. We haven't done that. Again, either stick with me through the next few series of recordings I'm going to make, Or to be honest with you, if you go to my YouTube channel and just search on SQLite, you'll see several recordings I've already done for previous classes that go into great depth on how to use a SQLite database. So if you can't wait for me to make fresh videos, feel free to look at those. I know I have probably 5, 6, 7, 8 videos on SQLite on my YouTube channel. So I'll be back with you in a minute as soon as my other video uploads. Thank you. And with the magic of recording, we're back. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to leave my computer online. I'm going to say select a plant. And let's try something new. Let's go with Apple. Okay, and I'm going to choose search, and again, I'm online now. It will probably have me step through a few breakpoints here. Okay, and I'll go ahead and play through them. Okay, let's see what we get once we finish playing through. It looks like it's marshaling the objects together now. And in a moment, here we go. Again, live data, real live data that we're using here. I'm going to go now and I'm going to turn off my network access again. Okay, that's off. I'm going to go back, and this time we're going to do the same thing, but without network access. So I go back, search on Apple again, and again, we don't have a local copy of data. We're just going against the network. We see that we're going to assemble the URI. We're going to make a network request. Step into. We see it's going to execute until it has to make that request. Once we tell it to make that request and the request fails, it's not going to return a response because an exception was thrown and there's no catch block. It's going to throw that exception back to the calling method. And by the way, what is the calling method? If you've ever looked up here in Eclipse, you see this debug window. This shows us the order of methods that are called. So right now we're in network DAO. Right before this, remember we were right here on line 36 and on line plant DAO. So what will happen is it will throw the exception back to the previous method on line plant DAO. Let's go ahead and press play, and we know this will take a few moments as it times out. And sure enough, here's where we've caught the exception. Now we are going to return an empty all plants. Okay, that empty all plants is going to get returned to the onPostExecute method eventually. Let me go ahead and step back. Okay, empty all plants, that's going to get returned to the onPostExecute. Let me scroll, and there we go, onPostExecute. And we'll go ahead and play until we get to that point. Uh-oh. I might have made something upset here. Let me go ahead and hit play. Okay, and now we're going to say if all plants is null or all plants size 0, go ahead and play the toast. So I'm going to choose play and quickly jump back to the emulator and try and get this centered up. And it, look, it just went, okay, sorry, it just went off the bottom of the screen there. But sure enough, we see we have a useful error message. So exception handling can make or break your program. It's a matter of if you view exception handling as an annoyance and something where you either just have to do a try or a catch and you're never really sure, or if you actually use exceptions and you keep in mind the design principles of Android of simplify, amaze, and enchant. So exceptions should be used to increase the quality of your program by preventing runtime errors or giving the user useful information when those errors occur. So again, thank you for joining with us today. This is part 2 of 2 in exception handling, and I look forward to seeing you in our next video. Thank you.